time to bring in our next speaker, Georgia.
Hi.
Hi, welcome.
Okay, good. The audio is working. I was super confused there for a second. I have a new mixer called a Go XLR, and it pipes all of this stuff through this one device, including everything I hear. So I had to do some other stuff so I didn't have an echo from hearing you guys and talking. Hello.
That's always interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of new gadgets here today.
Yeah. She has no idea how much money she just cost us. Or she did.
Yeah, $500. It just makes me sound prettier. I don't know. I like it.
Maybe they can fix my voice.
So I heard that my birthday is coming up.
Mine is tomorrow. Who gets it first?
But you need that microphone. It's a really nice microphone she have.
Yes,
Jessica.
This sure is a very good microphone.
Yeah.
I
also want one.
I saved up a lot of streaming money for this whole setup.
That's nice.
So how are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm great.
Yeah?
I'm ready to talk to people about my stumbling through Winforms to Blazor for the little application I wrote for Twitch. I have the YouTube stream up because I'm just so used to, gauging feedback directly from chat. So if people ask questions, I might actually just answer as I see.
That's fine.
Feel free.
Like I see somebody saying that my audio is a little low. So how's that? Is that better?
That's better.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. It's StreamYard has some automatic stuff in there, so I thought I'd tweak it.
Yeah.
So I saw that. Yeah. I'm ready to go whenever you guys are.
Yeah, I think we have, 2 more minutes?
Two more
just
minutes,
waiting for those last people that are actually following our schedule online.
You have forgotten the required questions, Jessica, about the snow. But I guess
the required, the mandatory question. Do you have snow?
No, I'm in Texas.
You can have ours.
Okay, I would love it. We got some snows, like magical snow, about 2 weeks ago. And it was really surreal because I had moved here from Northern Virginia, so I was used to snow and used to seeing it. But my youngest daughter has never seen snow before.
Oh, nice.
So she's outside trying to build snowmen with her bare hands and stuff because we didn't have gloves and things here in Texas. Like we live in hoodies. If it gets chilly, we're in a hoodie or like a sweater like this. And I mean, yeah, it was really fun. And she got to have a snowball fight with her sister. And yeah.
Oh, that sounds magical.
Yeah, it was neat. It was nice. I mean, it was only like, I want to say 2 inches of snow. It wasn't even really that much. Like in Virginia, sometimes we'd get 2 feet of snow overnight. Yeah. So it's definitely, it was nice. I didn't have to shovel
Last time I
anything
checked
up.
outside, I think we were on 2 inches, but we have some weather coming in, so it might as well be 2 feet.
Yeah.
We have about 1 feet now here.
Yeah?
Where I am.
European trying to figure out 1 feet. How small is it? Is it a 42, 46, 36? How big is the foot?
I'm sorry. We use freedom units here in America. Somebody called them freedom units like a couple of weeks ago, and I can't unhear it now. So that's now the new term.
That's perfect.
For fishing rods, 1 feet is 30 centimeters at least.
Yeah, I think it's around there.
Oh, I know it.
You see, I sew. So I get everything in centimeters, usually, or millimeters. Yeah. And like this one of my sewing machines here, and it's like got the ruler on it. So I've got, back and forth on that. I hate it when I get a measurement. It's like 1/2 inch. I'm like, well, where? Because my machine was made in Europe.
And we get the other way around. If you're, I've done some quilting and stuff like that, and all of those patterns, they are in inches, and 1/8 of an inch, and a scant inch, and
yeah.
But we manage.
I usually purchase extra plates to go on the machine so I can see the different measurements.
Yeah,
So that
I have
helps,
rulers,
but-
rulers in both centimeters and inch because I don't want to do the conversion. I know how to, but I don't want to. I'm too lazy.
Yeah.
All right,
All right.
it's time to start.
Yeah, nice.
Take it away.
Oh boy, now I get to talk.
Yes.
So this is going to be a postmortem talk. It's not going to be a whole lot of code. I'm just going to go over kind of the journey that I personally took as a former / recovering C++ engineer and into the .NET world, and eventually landing on Blazor for this application that I made that's called GIFBot. So first, a little bit about me. Oh my God, that's bright. I am a professional game developer. I've been working on games for 18 years. I've been programming professionally for about 20 years, but 18 of it has been in video games. And I have a specialization basically in client server technologies, which means I'm a rare breed. I've worked a lot on multiplayer, like massively online games, like like the WoWs of the world, the Warcrafts and all that. So I've done a lot of back-end technology over the years. But I also focus a lot on tools development and getting workflows for developing applications that allow designers and artists to create game content. I'm also a partnered Twitch streamer, but as I mentioned briefly earlier, I actually got partnered from sewing. I do coding streams. I code GIFBot live. I very rarely will code it on my own time, mostly because I like to share the knowledge, and I just enjoy, grabbing a cup of dryad tea and going through the problems with other people in chat. And I usually present things in a way that is easy for everybody of all skill levels to understand, even people who don't know engineering. So for those of you who don't know much about Twitch, I know that we are, I've got YouTube up right now. This bot only works for Twitch. It pipes right into the Twitch API. So Twitch is basically a website that's primarily known for its gaming content. It's where content creators go to live stream what it is they're doing. And aside from games, there's science and technology, there's arts, and I don't like to say crafts, but the crafts, and like real life stuff, and just chatting and body painting. There's so much stuff that's live streamed on Twitch, but because it's a live streaming environment, and again, like this is what I'm used to, I will look up at one of my 4 monitors and read chat periodically, is that interaction. And so something that, my friend came up with was to write a bot that would read chat or events on Twitch and do funny things that you configure it for. Like, he just wanted to play an animated GIF. So that's where GIFBot came in. And this is all just to give you guys a little bit of history on this. If you're not familiar with Twitch culture, I originally made poor choices and wrote the bot in Java with a beer. And I blame the fact that I used a diet beer for the fact that GIFBot existed in Java at any point. It was maybe only a 6-month stint, then I learned something. It was written specifically against the Twitch API, so it won't read chat on YouTube. YouTube's got its own API. It didn't work with Mixer when Mixer existed. Pour one out for our homies. And basically, like, if you were to boil it down to what it does, it listens for events and plays a stupid animation. That's really it. But because it's so wide open and you can configure those animations to trigger with very specific conditions, and fine tune all of the timing and everything, you can actually do a lot with it. And so, like, a lot of streams and content creators have used GIFBot to monetize, or even to propel their charity streams, which is something that I actually very proud of doing, is hosting a lot of charity events. I did get smart and I moved from Java to C#, mostly because I needed to pick up some C# and .NET skills for a job I was interviewing for and landed. And And then I started learning more about web and Blazor. And that's where the new iteration of GIFBot exists. So let's go over the problems that I had to address. Otherwise known, like the quip here is what C++ engineers create when they move to a managed language. So I wrote things in a very native manner. Twitch provides a very robust API for their developers. They tend to change things at last minute and not tell you, but that's okay. We work around it as our users let us know when bugs happen. I'm not bitter about that. I'm just honest. It's a very web-centric API, has a lot of RESTful calls, but they also have like a pub sub style system that's available. Basically, the issue with this is I wrote this bot under the assumption that it was going to be fine in a desktop application format. It was not. I had to pipe in a lot of extremely backwards ways of shoehorning in functionality in order to support the web-based API. I had to write my own web server, very bare bones web server to basically hit endpoints, to do certain things and to handle talking to Twitch. And it became very apparent as I started to try to add features that people were requesting, or as Twitch kept advancing their API, that it was really difficult for me to keep up with. And the other thing, it was a Windows only deployment. And I had a few Mac users, especially in the creative community. As you can imagine, artists and creatives, a lot of them have Macintosh computers. And then you have the few people who use Linux. I think I have one Linux user. So using Winforms and WPF basically meant I was limiting my users to a Windows-based platform. The other thing is it was a lot longer for me to iterate on the UI. I couldn't add buttons or things as quickly as I wanted to, which I use XAML. And as you'll see later, XAML is not much different than what you would have for the Razor files. But for some reason, it just felt like it took longer because it wasn't a fluid layout. It just I felt constrained, and I felt like every time I needed to add something, it took twice as long as what I can do now with a Razor file. The other thing is it had performance implications, because not only were you having to run your game, but you also had to run this desktop application that was listening to all these things in the background and doing things in the background. Actually, the first version of this, before I even threw in the fake web browser, had a big green window that you would capture in your broadcaster software and then just key out the green part. Not exactly the best. It worked fine for creatives, but the second that I started handing this off to gaming streamers, they would have basically the operating system would be fighting over what it was going to render. So the second that somebody would click off of the big green window in GIFBot, it would deprioritize the rendering, and it was hitching, and it just wasn't good. So I needed a better solution for that. And like I said, it was a maintenance nightmare. This here is the animation manager. This is the giant window that I had created so that people could add their animations. They can manage all the settings, and you can see this is just the general settings. I'm trying to filter. There were a buttload of other settings that are available on the other tabs. And it just is like, where do I put this stuff without growing the window to the point where it needs a scroll bar? Just in laying it out in an intuitive manner, and it just didn't work correctly the way that I wanted, and things were just getting too complex. There were features I wanted to do, things from Twitch I wanted to support, I just couldn't do in a desktop environment. And the other thing is, and point two there, I was very new to C# when I wrote this. Originally, I wrote it in Winforms, and then I started converting things over to WPF as I became more aware of the functionality and gained a better understanding of WPF. And, you know, a lot of that came from my actual job, my day job. But again, I come primarily from a back-end services development, you know, doing online games. I mostly focused on messaging and networking. I never really had to do a lot of front-facing stuff. All of my tools were on the back end, and managing back-end data. So to move into Winforms and WPF was actually kind of a context switch for me. So and while I used to do that stuff, I hadn't in several years. And so, you know, maybe some of my patterns weren't ideal for a desktop application. The other thing is, like I jokingly mentioned earlier, Twitch changes their API quite often, and they only let a handful of people know when this is happening. So I had to like cleverly hack in stuff to make it work. Actually, most notably, I can tell you recently, they added messaging in December to change the way the chat messages are formatted. So I was missing certain actions coming in through chat. They use like some hacked variation on IRC. So it had a bunch of tags before you see the text. And they changed the format of the tags, and it hosed a lot of stuff. So when they change stuff like that, I don't find out until it breaks, unfortunately. And because of the nature of the desktop application, it became more difficult for me to manage those and to pump updates out to people on a more frequent basis. So now that we've gone through all the things I've done wrong in my life, let's talk about the possible solutions. So now that I've got more experience under my belt with C#, and I had a little bit of experience with web development, I decided to go ahead and start looking at things like Blazor. But here's the thing, and I know it's more of a meme, or at least in my Twitch channel it is. I cannot stand JavaScript. So I wanted to stay away from picking up 5 million frameworks to install to make a single web page, or to make a button look cool. And so I had a very outdated perspective on how web was developed. I was under the assumption that you like had to have PHP and then HTML5 with a bunch of JavaScript on the front end, and God only knows how much else, you know, that you would need to install on your server in order to do certain things with PHP. So again, like extremely outdated. I think the last time, well, yeah, it says right there, last time I did any web significantly was back in 2005. And I mean, it was PHP with some very basic HTML, nothing fancy. And I always had this feeling like I needed, you know, the CVS receipt joke that like I have to roll out this giant parchment to go over all of the technology I would need in order to build a very simple website. But at the same time, I wanted my website, I want this application rather to be intuitive and interactive and responsive. Those were the key things. I wanted to have the feel of the desktop application in terms of its reliability and responsiveness, but I didn't want the tech stack to go with it. You know what I mean? So, and I also needed something that could be self-hosted. I can't pay for this. I actually, it is a nice bird. I see you, but there's a time and a place for every language and every tool. So I don't knock it. There's JavaScript in GIFBot. So I redeem myself a little bit there. There is JavaScript. But back I'm saying on target. There are some streamers that have animations that are MP4 or WebM files that are 500 megs in size or larger. I myself am one of those offenders. So hosting that and streaming it to them would cost me way too much money. So I wanted to put this in the hands of the users. I didn't want to store their data. I didn't want to serve up their data. I didn't want to be responsible for potential DMCA takedowns, things like that. I didn't want the legal aspects of it, and I didn't want the financial hit. So it had to be something that could be self-packaged. So that's where ASP.NET Core and Blazor come into play, which I guess now you can say is .NET 5. So I probably should update the slide. For me, the real king of it is that it's C# top to bottom. I didn't have to learn new languages. I didn't have to Google a whole lot. Well, I still had to Google, but I didn't have to Google every aspect of what I was doing because I already knew C#. There were things, whole chunks of code that I could take from my libraries that I had written for GIFBot and move to this new platform. So I didn't lose a lot of work. I was actually able to get GIFBot up and running with parity, minus a couple of older features, you know, like a Q&A game and stuff. I did it in 2 weeks. And the other thing is like all of the components, you know, you have, there's some free ones out there. I personally use the Telerik Blazor components for my bot, courtesy of Telerik and Progress. The other thing is the self-hosted options are available. So basically I just packaged this up and it runs in its own Kestrel container on the desktop, and you just hit localhost at the correct port and it takes you right to the page. So I didn't have to worry about publishing this to Azure or anywhere else and trying to maintain those costs myself. The end user can take that on. Now, the only thing that's going to kind of bite me later is the fact that Twitch is shifting their API to make it so that you have to have an endpoint they can hit. So hopefully I can work around that with WebSockets going forward. But again, this is kind of all new and they haven't really announced a whole lot of their plans for it. But they do have me in the loop now, which is good. And the other thing is really helpful when you're looking at moving to another API is patterns. So the MVVM pattern that is widely used in WPF and XAML is basically very similar to what I have to do with the Razor pages. I definitely wanted to have that model view model separation. So hide the TLDR on that is to hide your business logic somewhere else, not in the UI. The UI should just know I did a thing, not what was the thing. And your data should be separate of all of the view model as well. So you're not modifying or mutating your actual underlying data, which helps with things like, I want to cancel or undo that. So let's look at a quick code comparison just to kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about. This right here is a very small snippet of what I have on my settings dialog for an animation. And this, if you don't recognize, this is the WPF. And it has two-way binding, all the little settings in here, and the content of the combo box. So, for people who are familiar with XAML, it looks very much like HTML in a lot of ways, and I actually never use the visual editor, the WYSIWYG editor. It's lacking because it basically inserts a bunch of code you don't need. So I always hand wrote my stuff anyway because I felt like I got a cleaner appearance, and the code, it was a lot easier for me to read. Now, going into Razor from WPF, it looks similar enough, just a little different, but the data binding is here. You have the two-way binding. Hopefully you guys can see my mouse. I'm hoping that's translating over. So here's the data binding for the tier selection, and here's the data binding for the number of months they're required to subscribe to a Twitch channel before this alert can trigger. I was able to more easily hide and show things, or at least I felt like, because I could just do it in line. I could just do it in line without having a bunch of on-property notify changes in the back end of this Razor file. I use partial classes to hide the business logic, and I just felt like I could just easily, to use C++ terms, I could if-def this crap out. So if I don't want it to alert when a subscription happens, I just hide this whole section. And see, I couldn't really effectively do that in WPF without doing a lot of self-expanding dialogue stuff because it would just hide the section and leave a blank panel, which looks really awkward. Whereas on the website, it just automatically collapses and it's just a lot easier. You know, there's no other funny stuff that I had to do in order to ensure that my UI functioned correctly and looked really well. And you see, I did change out for a radio button list down here. And I will say, like, at the time, Telerik didn't have it, but now they've added it with their latest version. So I'll be adding that. So this is older code, but it's the cleanest snippet I could show you. That would show you a really good difference between the two. Now, I'll show you here, like, just to boil it down to just like the actual components of like the selection of what tier, you can see how similar this is. The difference here is that on the Razor page, I actually have the subtier change argument pushed through because there are other things that I wanted to do on the back end to pump to the server when data had changed, and also to ensure that my changes propagated up to other elements that were on the screen. So that's why I did that. Oh, yay. Oh, no, that's awesome. Yeah, Jay, let me know. Reach out. DM me on Twitter if you want help. If you need anything, I'm all here. I actually use TwitchLib to talk to Twitch directly, so I don't have to worry about that API. I can just focus on the tech. So like my tech, not their tech. So this is just a very basic comparison, and gives you a better idea of how WPF differs from Razor, but really it's just easy to translate. It seriously is. So when evaluating the change from one technology to another, I kind of have to take a methodical approach. And with this one, I had the ability to start over again, but not all the way. Like it's great to take a scorched earth approach sometimes. But and I'm looking at my time. Hopefully I'm okay. I talk a lot. So I tried to approach this from a standpoint of, you know, what if I could start all over again, what would I change? And it really just boiled down to making things more user friendly, making the bot easier to use. The underlying functionality was fine, but it was so difficult for me to give people a more of like a wizard style of setting up their application. 9 times out of 10, if people came to me with an issue setting up the bot, it was because they could not figure out the authentication. And that's because since it was a desktop application, I had to do all kinds of workarounds if I wanted to get them to authenticate with Twitch. And so I had to use another website to get things authenticated because I didn't have an endpoint for them to hit. And it was just really complicated. So at least with this bot, this next iteration of GIFBot in Blazor, I was able to be a lot more user friendly and take that wizard approach. Also, no hacks. I really did not want to have a bunch of hacks in there. Case in point, the fake web server that I wrote to serve up locally, to have endpoints for the browser source and OBS to talk to my bot. I really didn't want to do things like that. And I also wanted to move to a more web portable format like JSON. All of my data was in XML and it was very fragile. So for the high level solution, basically what I did was I have a client and a server that are in communication with each other. I need two-way communication for SignalR. So when things happen on the server, it can push a notification to the client and then the client can push data back down. I also use a combination of endpoints on controllers so I can just do some quick hit items, quick queries against the back end and not have to worry about the whole SignalR connection. And again, primarily, and like there's still some spots where I need to swap it out, but most of my UI components are actually the Blazor components by Progress Telerik. That allowed me to very quickly iterate on things and get things up and running. I cannot speak more highly about their tool set. So I feel like I got to rush through this. Let's talk about the user friendliness aspect. It's very important to understand that your users are going to do everything possible to break your application, and that you as an engineer are going to write things in a manner that is very programmery. It's like programmer art, but for UX, and it's never good. So this is how it started, with a separate control panel window, a separate window, a giant window for the animation manager, WPF. Not terribly intuitive. Like a lot of the stuff was just like you throw it at a user. You know, it didn't really ease them into the application at all. And so because of SignalR, I was able to have this two-way conversation with the backend and talk to Twitch and talk to my data, and to somewhat stream the information up a little bit at a time, thanks to using data requests. So because of these data requests, I could have these seamless interactions with querying the backend data and allow me to only pump little bits of information to the client at a time. So users got an at glance of their data and could dig in to get further information of the data. I could paginate the data, and it wasn't like this giant spreadsheet of doom shoved in front of them. They could more easily digest what I was giving them. The other thing is, because of it being web, I can finally use a wizard style setup. And it's actually just a single Razor file that ifs, else's, what state you're in, and walks the user through setup. I also have a tutorial to walk them through setting up their first animation. And on top of that, I also made YouTube videos to kind of walk them through how to use the bot as well. Just a lot more overall user friendliness, understanding that your users aren't always going to know what something means. Like they won't know milliseconds or what MS means. So to walk them through that, have a lot of pop-ups. Hey, did you mean to do that? Something as simple as a confirmation dialogue on deleting something, so you don't accidentally delete all the things. Again, intuitive UI, showing hiding components they don't need to see or do need to see, reducing those frictions and interactions and making the whole process of using the tool a lot easier on them. I made sure to tell people who were testing it this time around to come to me if you mess something up or don't understand something, because most likely what it was is I just had an assumption. I assumed somebody would understand what the button meant, but it may not be that way. And I need to see people's workflows. And oftentimes I would Zoom or Discord call up people and have them share their screen and walk me through what they were doing so I could better understand their workflow and start to put roadblocks on things or guide my users in a better way. These are things I felt like I couldn't effectively do in a desktop application that just is, I hate to use the word intuitive again because it's written everywhere, but intuitive for web development. I feel like that web was created for everyone, and it's just not highly specialized for usability, and it's very accessible. So here's how it's going. This is what it looks like now. So this is the new dashboard, the control board. That was that single control panel window. And now you just click to go to your animations. And it lists. Now this actually is a little out of date. I apologize. I meant to fix this up. This actually now, this goes to a separate page, and this is now a grid tree. A tree list from Telerik, and it allows me to do bulk editing very easily. I can filter however needed, and select and do these, the bulk actions on a lot of things, but it's still so much better than what it was before. Let's see. And I think I'm like, this close. Okay, this close. How'd I do? Did I nail it?
You pretty much nailed it.
Yes. I'm so bad on timing. At the end there I was like, blah, 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 blah. So please ask questions.
I think you were like 10 seconds early even.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, wait.
Planned all along.
Oh, I don't know where we're fielding the questions from.
Yeah.
but I don't really see any in chat.
We have a couple of questions here, not in the chat, but we have them. How much code could you reuse, or do you decided to rewrite all of the code?
Right. I probably glossed over that when I realized I was running out of time to talk. I took a lot of my core functionality and moved it into a library. So I have a common library that has things like connecting to Twitch and talking to Twitch endpoints, processing their data, things like that. So I had already kind of started siphoning off that common code to split UI from core functionality. And all I had to do was link up to that library. That was literally it. Most of the work I did in those 2 weeks was to just rewrite the UI. And I had taken the opportunity in the UI portion to do a scorched earth approach and just get rid of old stuff nobody needs. Like that one feature that Bob asked for that only Bob uses, that kind of thing. Just to clean it up a bit. I said yes to everything. Never say yes to everything. Take a Jira ticket and put it in the backlog and forget it exists. Don't really do that. That's a horrible thing. But
you might want to feel. You might feel like it.
Yes. Yeah.
We have a question about the Twitch API. Have you found a way to test subscriptions, etc.?
No. That is the most annoying thing. I will tell you, Twitch is working on a platform, a website that will allow you to push test notifications. What I do is I set my bot in someone's channel and I record stuff. So I record the notifications that come through. They still send those through chat. So if you do that, just record that information. And then in the debugger, you can just replace a chat message with that message and process it that way. If you're not using Twitch Lib, that is. But that's the only way that I've been able to test it. But they are working on something to help their developers because it's costing me a lot of money to test my bot.
So rumor says that you have a new tattoo.
I do. Yeah, I got it yesterday. It's still covered in the healing plastic. Can I show that off? Is that not creepy?
Someone says Star Wars and someone says Star Trek.
It is not Star Trek. No. Yeah, no, it's just a minimalist tattoo.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
That is so cute.
I'm like, how can I contort my body to show off my tattoo on a Microsoft presentation? Things I never thought I'd say as a girl growing up in rural North Carolina.
We also have a question here if you have any good resources for learning Signal R.
Oh, Google. I actually to learn Signal R, I went straight to the blogs that Microsoft puts up and just started learning from that. And I also have C# Fritz, Jeffrey Fritz on speed dial. So if I need anything at 3 a.m, I just call him. His wife doesn't like me very much, but. I mostly learned from the examples that were online. It's actually really easy to pick up. I did put like a very basic example of Signal R and Blazor on GitHub. Same thing with a very simple Twitch chatbot, so people can kind of learn from that. I sometimes find that, when you go to these blogs and things, I read like stereo instructions and they have way too much detail and you get overloaded. And sometimes all you need is a very simple example. So I tried to put those really simple examples up for people.
Nice.
Have you used any UI library during Blazor redesign?
Yeah, that would be the Progress Telerik Blazor UI components. That's what I've primarily used. There's also the Radzen components that are free, but I mean, you get what you pay for. So you have to do a lot of functionality with, like, for example, you have to do your own filtering. You manually write your own filters for a lot of their data sets. But yeah, I looked at DevExpress and I looked at Telerik. And actually we use Telerik now at work too. So, yay.
I have another question here. What database are you prefer to use in Blazor?
All right. So, okay. I don't really use a database with GIFBot. GIFBot is all flat data in JSON. So that's different. I do use Microsoft SQL at work though. So I really think that the database question depends on what it is you're trying to do and how you want to organize your data. So it could, you could need a relational database, or you could use a NoSQL database. It really just depends. Like I know that there's a website, that Fritz was making called ClipTalk, where he started out doing a NoSQL solution in Azure and then recently moved to MySQL. Mostly because he needed that relational lookup. You need the power of that.
I also have a question. If you're giving out Fritz's number.
Yes.
Please don't.
It's 703-867-5309. I feel so sorry for Jenny. Yeah, someone. Sorry. Yes, it's at Fierce Kittens. It's so weird because like I always introduce myself at conferences like Fierce Kittens. You know, I have to say it all rough and stuff because otherwise like, oh my God, like, hi, I'm Fierce Kittens. It just sounds good. But I started out as a Twitch streamer and then I started to fishtail into slamming into Microsoft presentations. So yeah, I don't go as my full name on Twitter, but it's at Fierce Kittens.
Where does the name come from?
Because my first job in the gaming industry, everybody told me I was so cute and little, like a ferocious kitten. But if I got backed into a corner, I would kill everyone. So vicious attack kitten, shrink it to Fierce Kittens.
Fair enough.
I saw a comment, I think it was on Twitter, that we have written the wrong name.
Oh,
yeah.
in your
Yeah. Who's this?
Oh, in the schedule? I saw it, but I was like, man, that's funny. I've seen so much worse.
Okay. Ever have a comment that you're funny to watch?
Oh, thank you.
Donovan Brown.
I don't know who Donovan Brown is.
He's working for Microsoft.
Or I.
Azure DevOps guy.
Right. That's him.
Sorry.
I was going for comedians. Yeah, I know that guy.
It's how I work out my nervousness. That's it. I just tell jokes until people forget I'm supposed to give a talk.
Well, it's a good strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how many users you have approximately?
It is just under 500 users. And I'm really proud of that. Some of them keep quiet. They don't like people to know their monetization secrets. But I can tell you that there are a number of people in the music community on Twitch that make lots and lots of money. Well, because you can set it up to listen to the Streamlabs service if you get a tip. One of the things I like, I mentioned charity. I will make very special events that happen only during those streams for certain types of donations. So like if you donate $6.66 while I'm playing a scary game, it'll give me a jump scare. And let me tell you, it racks up. It really does. People love that, and you know, it really has helped push people to do silly things because they just love to have, especially in the past year, people want to have a touch on someone's life, and to mess with a streamer and to mess up their stream or interrupt their thought is just too much to pass up. People love it.
That's nice. Thank you so much for joining us. It was a blast.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having